Is your life falling apart around you? Do you need to go to the dentist but you can't afford it? You chipped a tooth and your insurance was dropped? And Path of Exile 2 is destroying your ass every 15 minutes? Some of that might be specific to me, but I think the point stands on its own. So you're here on a journey, on a quest, for a guide to help you unfuck your gear. Gear is where you get 90% of your power from in Path of Exile 2. That's pretty common knowledge at this point. If you didn't know, hey, congratulations, you're one of us now. Alright, so let's get into how to actually upgrade our gear. There's two main ways, trading and crafting. For trading, I made a video on how to trade. Go watch it. There's one thing I failed to mention, but I did show in the video, and that's you can set your currency type for the trade and the filters, and that's going to allow you to find better gear for cheaper. The second and main way to upgrade your gear that we're going to be covering in this video is crafting. In order to go through that though, I have to explain the common currencies used for crafting and what we use them for. Orb of Transmutation. This upgrades a white or normal item to a magic item, which is blue, with one modifier. Orb of Augmentation adds a new random modifier to that item. I think the max is 3 or 4, depending on the type of item, sometimes 2. Regal Orb upgrades a magic item to a rare item, rare being yellow, and it also adds one modifier. Exalted Orbs add a new random modifier to rares, which is yellow, so you can only use these on yellow. Orb of Alchemy is a way to get rid of the previous 3 steps. You take an item straight from normal to rare with 4 modifiers. The Chaos Orb is what you use to replace a random modifier with another random modifier on a rare. A Val Orb is what you use after you're done upgrading everything to corrupt it to try to get something better. But be warned, you could get something way worse. Divine Orbs re-roll the numeric modifiers on the items. So if you have modifiers that you like, but they're like the minimum that can be rolled on that item, you may want to use a Divine Orb to, like, you know, upgrade them a bit. You can hold Alt on an item to see what the max rolls are for its modifiers. Another thing that's important to mention, you don't want to run a Val Orb until you're done completely upgrading your item. So upgrade your item, run these 3 on them, whichever one's applicable. So for instance, we want to get our armor to 20% with armor scraps. Make sure to put the maximum amount of slots possible in your gear with Artificer's Orbs. And now we can finally run a Val Orb. But don't run a Val Orb unless you have something you can use as a backup. That's going to make sure that you can still play the game if you brick your item with it. So real quick, I'm going to demonstrate the process of upgrading an item. We have this bow right here. So the first thing we want to do, we know we're going to use this bow. It's got chaos damage. We're doing a chaos damage build, hypothetically. We're going to throw an Orb of Transmutation on it. 14 to accuracy rating, 5% increased light radius. At this point, I would throw this out, right? So we're going to grab something else. All right, so that failed. We have something else we're going to upgrade instead. Normally, you would want to try to do the same thing over and over until you get what you want. But in this case, I don't have another one of these bows. So I've got this mask here. I'm going to go ahead and roll this on it. 30 to lightning resistance. That's really good. Orb of Augmentation. 22% increased evasion and energy shield. That's also really good. It is out of slots for the magic rarity. Let's move on to a Regal Orb. 2.6 life regeneration per second. Personally, I wouldn't want that low of a roll, but for the sake of the video, let's go ahead and keep upgrading. Next, we do our Exalted Orbs. We get another one, 97 to maximum mana. Another one, 18% increased critical hit chance. Not terrible. Now we're going to max out the modifiers with another Exalted Orb here. And we got 96 to maximum life. So this is maximum life, maximum mana, 18% increased critical hit chance, 30 to lightning resist, 22% increased evasion and energy shield, and then we got some life regen, but the amount is negligible, right? So now, hypothetically, do not do this usually without upgrading it all the way with the armor scraps, but we're going to go ahead and corrupt it and see what happens. So we got 25 to spirit. So now this is actually a pretty good item, and I wish I had upgraded it all the way. But that's just kind of showing you the process for one item, and then we'll move on. So let's take a look at some things we should be looking at when we're crafting our gear or buying our gear, whatever. First thing, resistances. At in-game, you want to try to be capped on elemental resistances. I'm not at the moment. I'm in the middle of upgrading my gear from armor and evasion to evasion and energy shield, so my resistances are still a little bit messed up. But at the beginning of in-game, you should try to have 75 on at least the elemental resistances, and then try to have 20 to 30 on chaos if you can. If you can't, you really need to go back and grind some more. Make sure that you got all of the side bosses and all of the acts, got everything that you can possibly get before you move on. The other thing to look out for too is the armor types, right? Armor, energy shield, and evasion. So right now, according to at least my experience, and there are bigger creators with like PhDs in PoE math, and their opinion is that armor is broken. So my opinion is that I got my ass kicked using armor, but I also didn't stack just armor. So I don't really know the exact number that you need to make armor good, but I can just tell you from experience, energy shield and evasion is much better than evasion and armor, at least with what I'm doing. I'm not building health, I'm building other things like damage, but I've had to go back and I've had to modify my tree quite a bit to enable me to even survive in like tier 7 maps, right? That's what I'm on at the moment. For energy shield, you should probably look at Grim Harvest and Ghost Steps. Those will help your survivability a little bit, at least while you're building up your energy shield. The other thing that I would highly recommend is to invest in spirit on your gear. If you have at least some spirit on your gear, you should be able to use more passive abilities. We have, I think, 9 slots, and of those 9 slots, 5 of mine are auras or buffs at the moment, just for a little bit more damage, more survivability. It may not be the best build advice, so take it with a grain of salt, but for me personally, I find that having spirit on your gear is actually pretty useful. When you're buying or building your gear, you want to be careful about what runes you put into what pieces. They all have different outcomes based on if they're in equipment or weapons. So you want to take a careful look at what you have in runes, and then you also want to take a look at all of the drops for, I believe it is ultimatum, because you can actually get some pretty broken outcomes if you take the time to save up for and buy these items rather than just slamming in an extra 20%, whatever. There's one more part of crafting that I forgot to mention, the reforging bench. It can reforge items of the same type and rarity. So for instance, if I had 3 blue bows, I put them in here. The 3 blue bows have modifiers that I don't like. I reforge them into a new blue bow. Once I identify them, maybe I get modifiers that I like on it. You can do the same with yellows as well. I'm not sure that you can do anything with uniques. I can try right now. No, it will not let you reforge uniques, unfortunately. Other things that you can reforge though are rings, jewels, and I believe charms. Another thing to look at too when crafting, this is a little bit more advanced when you get into maps, you can craft with essences. So you can take a normal item and you can determine the type of modifier you're going to roll on the item. And then for delirium currencies, these currencies right here, distilled ire, guilt, greed, etc., you can take those and you can put them on an amulet to get a different kind of effect on the amulet as well. All right, I hope you liked the video. Sorry it was a bit more dry. I hope to do better next time. Making guides and making them fun is difficult for me, but I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm live on Twitch every night at 8 p.m. CST through the rest of December and probably at least a couple weeks into January. But for now, that's where I'll be if you want to talk, hang out, chat, whatever. Like and subscribe if you liked this video and it helped you out. And it helps me, you know, in the algorithm if you comment. So do that, yeah? All right, thanks, guys.